Our world provides a sanctuary for life to flourish. Yet the rapid expansion and industrialization has come at a cost. A change in the climate has been brought on by greenhouse gases, with one of the biggest culprits being carbon dioxide. The Paris Accords were created in response to this threat. They set a benchmark for countries to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. While progress has been made, Canada seems unlikely to meet this goal unless drastic changes are made. Yet a transition to solely green energy is not realistic. The economy is heavily supported by Albertan oil sands, and a complete shutdown would be catastrophic to not just Alberta, but Canada itself. Blue hydrogen is at the center of our proposal, a cleaner energy derived from natural gas. While not a permanent solution, the use of an already proven technology allows for a quick implementation. The use of blue hydrogen allows for a smooth transition into existing infrastructure once green hydrogen technology is feasible at a large scale.
Blue hydrogen is the product of decarbonizing fossil fuels. Like fossil fuels, hydrogen can be used to power vehicles, homes, and cities. But unlike fossil fuels, hydrogen releases only water when combusted or reacted in a fuel cell, and fuel cells are more than twice as efficient as the internal combustion engine. Blue hydrogen is already produced from natural gas at scale, and new technologies are emerging to transform complex hydrocarbon fuels such as petroleum. Steam methane reforming, SMR, the most proven technology for producing hydrogen from natural gas, takes advantage of a reaction between gaseous water and methane to produce hydrogen gas and carbon oxides. Steam and natural gas are combined in two stages. The pre-reforming stage decomposes longer chain hydrocarbons into methane, and the reforming stage, performed in a furnace, allows the methane to decompose into a hydrogen and carbon oxide rich syngas. The remaining stages separate the hydrogen from the syngas and recycle tail gas to the furnace. Excess steam from the furnace then moves to a turbine to produce electricity. This process releases carbon dioxide, about 60% of which comes from the reforming and 40% from the furnace. The most common carbon capture technology for SMR is amine-based absorption using methyl diethanolamine. The syngas, in the case of pre-combustion capture, or flue gas in the case of post-combustion capture, is fed through an absorption column full of MDEA, which absorbs the carbon oxides in the gas. Unfortunately, SMR with post-combustion capture is only about 70% effective, and fossil fuel consumption accounts for just 81% of Canada's emissions. So, we have decided to employ atmospheric carbon mineralization-based capture to offset the remaining 35% of Canada's annual greenhouse gas emissions.
Through our system of steam methane reforming, the use of carbon capture and storage will be employed to capture and offset the remaining CO2, resulting in net zero emissions from the energy system. Carbon capture uses an industrial plant which uses large fans to pull air which passes over a series of surfaces with a potassium hydroxide solution flowing over them. This solution binds with atmospheric CO2, removing it from the air and forming a carbonate salt. This salt is then put into a pellet reactor along with an aqueous calcium hydroxide solution, which causes the CO2 to separate from the potassium and form calcium carbonate. The potassium is formed back into potassium hydroxide during this reaction, allowing for reuse, forming a sustainable loop. The calcium carbonate is then put in a calciner, which separates and releases CO2 and calcium oxide, which is then combined with water, forming calcium hydroxide to be used back in the pellet reactor, closing a second final loop. The pure CO2 is then ready for permanent storage. Alternatively, the CO2 can be combined with hydrogen to form hydrocarbons, creating synthetic crude for applications such as air travel, in which high energy density fuels are needed.
Our proposal calls for the following to start immediately and be complete by 2050: the construction of blue hydrogen production facilities and projects to capture and sequester atmospheric carbon, the reassignment of our existing pipeline infrastructure to transport hydrogen and captured greenhouse gases, and finally, the implementation of infrastructure necessary for the future transition to green hydrogen. Assuming private entities will cover operating costs, the capital investment required to build and repurpose the infrastructure capable of replacing our future domestic and export fossil fuel demand is about $550 billion. With a 50-year lifespan, that infrastructure will divert about 35.5 billion metric tons of CO2 emissions at a rate of $15.48 per ton. If we include the remaining 22.4 billion tons CO2 either not captured in blue hydrogen production or not offset by the elimination of fossil fuels, the total cost to offset the 57.9 billion tons CO2 released domestically and by international use of Canadian energy products over 50 years rises to $2.27 trillion at a rate of $48.13 per ton, while our consumer energy spending will remain unimpacted.
So Canada needs to generate energy. Luckily, thanks to our unique terrain and environment, we're presented with the opportunity to use clean, renewable energy. A great example of how this can work is British Columbia, where over 90% of the electrical grid is run off clean, renewable hydroelectric energy. Canada, being the country with the world's largest coastline, is presented with a unique opportunity to use tidal power. Canada being the second largest country, we could also use solar and wind energy.
While many technologies are in development as a potential solution, Canada needs one which is proven and can be implemented as soon as possible. Our system uses proven technology and provides a clear path for a transition to fully green energy. Canada has an opportunity that it must take advantage of. And while the continued use of oil sands may seem like a step in the wrong direction, it is the only viable option. Canada relies on oil for the economy, and a cost effective bridge to a fully sustainable and renewable energy grid running on green hydrogen should be taken, not only to ensure a better life for us and our kids, but for their kids and many generations to come.